As World War II drew to its brutal close in May 1945, with Nazi Germany collapsing under Allied pressure, one German U-boat chose a path far from surrender. U-977, a Type VIIC submarine of the Kriegsmarine, refused to give up. Under the command of a young 24-year-old officer named Heinz Schäffer, the crew decided to flee rather than hand themselves over to the victorious Allies. Their destination: Argentina, a neutral country with a large German community that seemed far more welcoming than the fate awaiting them in Europe. This wasn't just a technical feat of submarine warfare. It was a story of desperation, endurance, and the birth of enduring myths. U-977 was built at the Blohm Voss shipyard in Hamburg. Construction began in 1942. She was launched in March 1943 and commissioned in May of that year. As a standard Type VIIC boat, around 67 meters long, with a surface displacement of about 769 tons, she was powered by two diesel engines for surface speeds up to 17 knots and electric motors for submerged travel. She carried torpedoes as her main armament, along with a deck gun, and could accommodate a crew of 44 to 60 men. For most of her early life, U-977 saw no combat. She spent her time training in the Baltic Sea with training flotillas, suffering damage from collisions that kept her out of frontline action. It wasn't until early 1945 that Heinz Schäffer, born in Berlin in 1921 and a Kriegsmarine officer since 1939, took command. By then, the war was nearly over. The U-boat fleet had been decimated by Allied air and naval forces. On May 2, 1945, U-977 left Kristiansand, Norway, on her first combat patrol, heading toward the English Channel with orders to attack shipping around Southampton. A near-suicidal mission given Allied dominance at sea. But just days later, on May 5th, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, Hitler's successor, ordered all submarines to cease attacks and prepare to surrender. Germany had lost. The war in Europe was finished. Schäffer refused, influenced by propaganda warnings of harsh Allied retribution, including exaggerated fears of mass sterilization and enslavement under plans like the Morgenthau proposal, and haunted by stories of German POWs after World War I, he chose escape. With the support of most of his crew, he set course for Argentina, hoping for better treatment there. The real journey began on May 10, 1945. Schäffer gave married crew members the option to leave. 16 men chose to go home, disembarking by dinghy near Holsnøy Island off Bergen, Norway. The remaining 32, from an original crew of around 48, pressed on. What made this voyage legendary was Schäffer's claim of a continuous 66-day submerged run from May 10th to July 14th, 1945, the second longest such period of the war, after U-978's 68 days. They relied on the recently installed snorkel, a breathing tube that allowed diesel engines to run at periscope depth, drawing in fresh air while charging batteries and expelling exhaust. This let them avoid surfacing and detection in waters patrolled by Allied forces. Life aboard was hellish: stale, humid air, constant dim lighting, extreme psychological strain. Crew members reportedly came close to breaking down, but strict discipline and the hope of a new life in South America kept them going. They covered thousands of miles southward through the Atlantic, dodging radar and sonar sweeps. After those 66 days, they briefly surfaced near the Cape Verde Islands for a short rest, swimming and recharging. The rest of the trip involved some surface running on one engine due to mechanical issues, crossing the equator around July 23, 1945. In total, they traveled over 14,000 kilometers, about 7,600 nautical miles, across roughly 108 days at sea. On August 17, 1945, U-977 finally arrived in Mar del Plata, Argentina, and surrendered to the Argentine Navy. The crew was detained, then extradited to the United States and Britain for intense interrogations. They faced accusations of sinking the Brazilian cruiser Bahia, later proven false. It was an ammunition explosion, transporting high-ranking Nazis, including wild claims about Hitler himself, or carrying Reich gold. All charges were eventually dropped. Schäffer was released in 1947. The submarine was seized by the U.S. Navy, taken to New London, Connecticut, and sunk as a target during torpedo trials by USS Tool on November 13, 1946. U-977's story echoed that of U-530, which had reached Argentina a month earlier. Together, their arrivals fueled endless conspiracy theories that they ferried Hitler and Eva Braun to safety, smuggled Nazi treasure, or even made secret trips to establish hidden bases in Antarctica. Schäffer firmly denied it all in his 1952 memoir, U-977, 66 Days Underwater, published in English as U-Boat 977, insisting the voyage was simply a bid to avoid capture and hardship, not some grand secret mission. Modern historians largely agree. There's no credible evidence for the more sensational claims. No proof exists that Hitler escaped, and the 66 days fully submerged figure has been questioned by U.S. Navy reports, which describe only occasional dives, frequent direction-finding signals in late May, a Cape Verde stop, and mostly surface travel later on. Still, the core feat remains extraordinary, a testament to snorkel technology and human resilience under extreme conditions. In the end, U-977 stands as one of the most gripping tales from the dying days of the U-boat war. Out of thousands built, few survived, and fewer still attempted anything like this post-surrender odyssey. Schäffer passed away in 1979, leaving behind a legacy of bold, some say reckless, defiance. The story reminds us of war's chaos, the desperation of defeat, and how real events can spawn myths that outlive the facts.